What is that?
We are talking about the made-for-TV nautical horror Dead in the Water. This one is directed by Sheldon Wilson. Now the setup for this movie is we have this crew of this seafaring vessel, this boat, they're all women for some reason. And they are kind of out on the sea for very vague reasons, I have to say. Anyway, they're chasing this kind of fishing boat, and it seems their boat particularly is a little bit of a kind of a rust bucket and kind of breaks down just in front of this kind of like this huge storm that happens to be approaching. Now, where they're trying to kind of get the engine fixed, they're dead in the water, hence the title. And there seems to be some kind of random guy kind of floating around in the water who they bring on board, but he seems to be infected with some type of parasitic entity. Now this of course is some type of strange, either prehistoric kind of like parasite, or maybe even an alien a la The Thing, that soon kind of escapes and wants fresh hosts to feast on their kind of warm bodies and things like that. So it's up to this kind of this small group of women to kind of fend off this kind of attack from this parasitic menace, to try and get the engine started before the kind of storm hits, and kind of deal with all the kind of the internal strife that the kind of the situation is causing between the crew. What will happen? You have to watch the movie to find out. So let's discuss Dead in the Water. So we'll go with the negatives first of all. This one. The first thing I want to talk about is this is an easy movie to compare. You can, the sounds of it, you can probably guess. It sounds like The Thing. It's The Thing on a boat. But we've actually seen that a couple of times already. The Leviathan springs to mind, and more recently we had the Harbinger Down. And so it's very much like those two movies, more so than The Thing to be to a certain degree. Harbinger Down, also known as Inanimate. So the premise isn't particularly original. So I've got to say, for me, the first issue I have with this movie is this very beginning, because the setup of this film is very poor. We just don't know what the hell these women are doing. Why is there what looks to be quite a large commercial-looking vessel in the middle of the sea with no real purpose? It seems to be chasing a fishing boat for some reason to tag it. Why? I don't really know. What, they're not authorities? I don't really know what they're doing. I can only assume they're kind of like Greenpeace type people, but it's never really expanded upon. I have no idea who they're there and why they're there. And a lot of these, we get a little bit of kind of dialogue to suggest that some of these women haven't been on a boat before. So they're not particularly kind of like a crew that knows each other that well. But there's virtually no characterisation within these kind of group of women. So it becomes a little bit hard to kind of tell who's who to a certain degree, because they just kind of don't really seem to have much in the way of kind of characterisation. Why they are all women is never really discussed. It just seems like an odd thing. So we have a poor setup, we have poor characterisations. We're going to get our creature. I've got to say, it's not particularly impressive. It looks like it reminds me of those there's a 50s movie, which name escapes me, with this kind of little brain thing with that antenna kind of, is like just kind of getting pulled around on the floor with a bit of string. It reminds me of that. It's basically like a little squid thing, which is mainly made out of CGI. But when you compare this to, say, like The Thing, or even kind of like Harbinger Down and Leviathan, which had a kind of a bit more, you know, a bit more to the actual creatures and stuff, this one seems a little bit weak sauce. So yeah, the creature isn't particularly effective. There's a couple of okay effect shots which I'll come on to in the positives, but the visual effects, I've got to say, the design isn't particularly impressive, and the CGI is sometimes a little ropey. I can kind of forgive that because it's a TV movie with a low budget, so I can kind of look past that personally, but I feel I must point it out because some people may kind of be put off by that. And I guess the other thing to really say is that it just doesn't, well, as the movie progresses, it never really does anything new with the genre here. It's just a kind of fairly kind of formulaic movie that we've seen now a few times before. So does it do anything right? So although I have to say Some of the characterization is a little weak. I thought the acting was actually fairly strong. All the kind of cast here, I think, do the best with what they've got and give kind of like believable performances. Although we don't really kind of empathise with any of the characters to a particular degree. That's down to the writing. I think the acting here is actually okay. The casting, I think, is pretty good as well. You know, they've cast a bunch of women who are not too kind of glammed up. These women look like they have been working kind of like on a manual kind of in manual labour for a while, so they look the part. They're not, you know, stupidly kind of like glammed up or anything like that, which I think at least kind of gives it some kind of credibility. And that's, I'm going to say, I believe it was actually filmed on a real kind of, at least the interiors were filmed on a kind of a real boat, which kind of gives it that kind of like the authentic kind of film. There are a little bit of practical effects here. We see an autopsy scene, and we see some kind of effects where people have been, you know, controlled by this creature, which I think looks okay. I mean, it's just very average to me. I mean, another thing with this film is the creatures seem to have unknown or unknown kind of powers, because it seems to be feasting on the characters all throughout the movie. Then right at the end, it's controlling one, and it never really has done that before. It just seems to happen like straight away. So it just seems odd because that wasn't kind of like established. So yeah, I've got to say it's a little bit of a disappointing one. I actually quite like the this type of film, and I know I referred to it before. So the movie Harbinger Down was kind of like the thing on a boat, and that actually got rag on, but I didn't mind it so much. And I thought this Harbinger Down was better than this. So this is actually, a lot of people don't like Harbinger Down though, so you know, that also known as Inanimate. But this one to me was kind of weak. It's just not much to it. There are, like I say, it's kind of quite moody in the fact that it's all going to film on this boat. It's obviously dark, and you know, we have the rain crashing and all of that, so it kind of looks kind of like, quite kind of like, they've got the clock going essentially, because obviously we know there's time limits here, and there's, you know, a little bit of good ambience, I suppose. The acting was okay, but like I've said, it's just kind of characters you don't really care about, poor setup, not particularly interesting monster, and a completely unoriginal script. So I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.